Well, hello there. My name is Diellecharon. I'm a sales coach for aspiring and scaling women of color coaches. I also am the host of the Black Banked and Booked Out podcast, where I talk about all of my sales training, sales lessons, and shout out my amazing clients on my podcast episodes. And I also have a free sales training right now that you can download that will teach you how to hit 5 figures and 6 figures as a woman of color coach. You can head to the description box to get it. In this video, I want to talk all about anxiety and entrepreneurship. And anxiety does not have to slow you down from having a multiple 6 or even a 7-figure business. I have anxiety, I've struggled with it my entire life, and I've learned to manage it and have it work for me instead of against me. For me, my definition of anxiety is intense but pretty consistent worry. And worry not just about the little things, but about everything all the time. And sometimes it impacts my sleep, sometimes it impacts my mental health, sometimes it impacts how I feel in my body, and it could be really intense and really overwhelming to have so much anxiety. And there was a point in my business where I actually thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe the anxiety is so intense, and maybe I just have so much worry that I can't run a business. And when you're running a business, it's all you. You were the ones leading it. You were the ones driving the force. You were the ones going for it. And so you have to worry about the content. You have to worry about the sales. You have to worry about the money. You have to worry about the clients. You have to worry about the social media posts. You have to worry about the team. You have to worry about the ads, whatever it is, right? It could feel like it's all on you. So the anxiety is often heightened. So again, I often thought I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if I can manage a business and also have anxiety. But again, I learned different strategies that I'm gonna share with you today. So here's the first step when it comes to managing anxiety and entrepreneurship. And so I always like to get to the real issue on why I'm feeling anxious, right? So say I'm super nervous about how I'm gonna be seen on social media, or I have a really big launch and I don't know how it's going to turn out. I always like to get to the root cause of the anxiety. Am I trying to people please? Am I trying to show off that I'm this perfect person and I don't want anyone to see my flaws? Am I worried about money? Am I worried about how my clients are gonna perceive me? Am I worried about if I can keep this up long enough? When I get to the root of the issue, then I'm not necessarily worried about the launch, I'm worried about me. Right? Anxiety is all about how are you safe within you, not necessarily the little intricacies of the business in the ways that we think that they are. And so when it comes to anxiety, I always like to say, what is the real reason why I'm worried? What is the real reason why I'm anxious? And it might be a front-facing business issue, but it also might be a personal issue behind the scenes. So the second strategy that I always like to think about, and something that I teach all of my clients inside of my programs, is the difference between life problems and business problems. So many times as we're growing a business, we think we need to feel perfect in our life in order to grow the business. We can't have any issues with our relationships or with our families. We can't have any issues in our friendships. We can't have any issues with our weight. We have to have the perfect life in order to grow a business. But that's not always true. There could be several life things that are happening in your life and you can still grow a business. For example, during my $1 million year, where it was supposed to be full of celebration and full of happiness and full of excitement, I actually got diagnosed with a chronic condition. And I was in and out of doctor's offices, I was taking all sorts of labs, I had to change my diet completely, I had to stop traveling as much, and I had to learn how to take care of myself. My brain easily wanted to say, and I wanted to get super anxious and nervous about, okay, well, since we're sick in our life, there's no way we can accomplish our business goals, but they're separate. Life problems versus business problems. And it also goes for the business things as well. When a client says no, when you're not growing on social media, when you have a flopped launch, when you're not seeing the traction that you want to make, we take it out on our life. We then might isolate, or we might be super nervous in our life, or we might not want to hang out with our friends or do other self-care activities. When you separate life problems and when you separate business problems, you're then able to lower your anxiety. You no longer think that one has to depend on the other. They're actually separate issues and separate problems that you can solve separately. Lots of separately's there. The next strategy that I like to think about when it comes to managing my anxiety is realizing at the end of the day, I have an inner child. So we're going to get a little woo, but stay with me. I promise it's not that deep. And so when we think about it, there's lots of research and studies and case studies on the fact that when we grow up, our brains stop developing at a certain age, right? At 7 or 8 years old, we develop fear responses and we develop trauma responses, and then our brain locks those in. Our brain never forgets what made us really scared when we were young, or what made us really nervous when we were young, or what made us really anxious when we were young, right? And so we grow up with this inner child that knows what fear is like, and then we often get afraid based off of the inner child response. And so remember when you were a little kid and no one picked you to play with you on the playground and you felt alone and isolated? In your business, you can feel that same way. Oh my gosh, I haven't signed a client. I feel alone, I'm afraid, and I'm isolated. When it has nothing to do with social media, it has nothing to do with you not signing a client, it has everything to do with your inner child not feeling safe. So I often ask myself, and I just do several exercises where I ask myself, what does my inner child need? What is my inner child afraid of? What is my inner child confused on? And I always remind myself that we aren't on the playground anymore, right? We're not in the school cafeteria anymore, or whatever that really triggering response is. We're not there anymore. And so you often have to tend to your inner child in order to feel safe. And again, realize that whatever fear you're feeling often has nothing to do with the business, but it could have to do with your inner child. And then one of my favorite strategies when it comes to managing my anxiety is movement. Movement, movement, movement. Now, I want you to realize how I'm saying movement, not working out. Movement could look like dancing. It could look like having a chatty, hot girl walk, right? It could look like having so many things other than going to the gym or going to a certain fitness class. I remember when I was just trying to run, just to have a goal, just to move my body, my anxiety was significantly lower, right? And I think it has to do with, now I'm no biology expert, but I think it has to do with the energy literally being broken up in your body. Anxiety likes to store and likes to fester, but when you move your body, you're able to break up that energy. So pick whatever movement activity that you like. If it's dancing, if it's walking your dog, if it's just walking around in your neighborhood, if it is a fitness class, if that works for you. Realizing what works for you when it comes to movement can help lower your anxiety significantly. I remember I was calling a friend and she was like, "You sound so calm." She was like, "Have you been anxious lately?" I was like, I was trying to find the anxiety in my body and I couldn't. It was because I was running consistently. And so anxiety really is lowered when you focus on movement. The next strategy that I use to lower my anxiety is actually a spiritual one. And so I think something that has lowered my anxiety immensely is believing in a higher power. And that higher power could look very different to any of you. It could look like several different things that in the spirituality community, but for me, I realized that when I focus on a higher power, when I focus on someone who had more control, more than me, it made me feel so much more safe. I didn't feel like I was the only person running my business. I didn't feel like I was the only person who was given this mission. I had to tap into a higher power and realize that I'm not alone. There is someone in this universe guiding me, supporting me, orchestrating my steps, being there with me, setting me on this path. When I focus on my spirituality, that often lowers my anxiety too. Knowing that this was planned, this is how it was always supposed to be, and that I'm always guided and that I'm always supported helps me so much with my anxiety. And then the last thing that helps me with my anxiety is feeling safe. It's feeling safe. I'm safe financially, I'm safe emotionally, I'm safe relationally. Business can press on a lot of different buttons. It could press on, are we popular enough? It could press on the button of, do we have enough money? Do we have enough finances? And so it's always so important just to remember that you are safe. At the end of the day, anxiety loves safety, right? When it's worried, it just wants to feel safe. And so one of my favorite things to remind myself of is that I am safe. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helps you feel a little less anxious as you navigate entrepreneurship. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and follow for more.